Okay, so today we're going to start with our feet. So we're going to call this little session feet first, because they're the first thing that contact with the earth when we stand up in the mornings. And added to that, they're also the parts of our bodies we pay least attention to. We cram them into tight little shoes. We've done that maybe from very early on in our lives. We wear shoes with heels on them, which shorten our Achilles tendons, and everything about the stuff we do with our feet on a daily basis is not good for them. So this little session is going to teach you how you might, in very short little snippets, how to look after your feet, how to take care of them. So you will have noticed that I'm sitting in this cross-legged position, and we're going to start every one of these little videos with me in this position. And it's for several reasons. The first one is it opens your hips. It also allows you to center your body. And you might notice, or you may not be able to see, but I'm actually sitting on the edge of a bolster. But you can use a cushion there, or you can use a towel, just wrap it up, or a blanket or something like that. And I have a very specific reason for doing this, because it tilts my pelvis. So if I sit on my mat, and if you're not, like I teach yoga, so I'm well used to doing this, but if you're not used to sitting in this position, tendency for most people is to round their backs and hollow out their tummies. And that's really bad for your back. That's the first reason we're doing it. It's also really good for opening your hips, and it's good for the position of your feet. So all of those things are good about it. The other thing, and we're going to include this in every single one of these videos, is that you should be able to stand up without using your hands. The thing about having the bolster behind me is that it really helps if you want to do that. There are all kinds of ways you can do this. And when you try it for the first time, if you find you have to use your hands, then do. Maybe first you'll use two hands, you get over onto all fours. Maybe then you'll graduate to using one hand, or you'll put a stool or a chair in front of you and use that to stand up. But this is the simplest way that I know of getting up without using your hands. And that is to take your right foot to the mat. Oh, it's the other way around with you, is it? It's mirror image, isn't it? So take you anyway, do it your way. So one foot to the mat, come up onto the other knee, and then just stand up. And you've no idea how good that is for you, for your whole body, as just a way of mobilizing, because to be able to do that, you have to be able to stand on one leg to lift up. You have to be able to open your hips. You have to be able to use your knees. So little tips like that are invaluable in terms of keeping your body supple, in allowing it to move carefully and freely as you age. And I suppose this is a good time as any to confess to my own age. So I leave you to work it out. I was born in 1952, an academic for my whole working career. Still an academic, of course, you never stop being one. But I also have always been fascinated by how magically our bodies function and how they work. For me, spending most of my life sitting at a desk, I should be round-shouldered, I should be hollowed out through the centre, and I should have taken neck as well. And I've spent a lot of time trying to counteract all of that. And so what I'm going to teach you is just what I do every day, how I move my body, how I protect it from many of the things that go with aging. And so we're going to start with the feet. So this is our feet first little sequence. I'm going to go through the sequence quite quickly, but you can take your time at it, play around with it, adapt your own version of it, take it in whichever sequence you want. But this is how we begin. So having started off sitting on my bolster, I'm now going to slip off it. So there are two ways of doing the first part of this. If you can cross one ankle over the top of the other thigh, we'll do it that way. But if, for instance, you don't have the hip mobility to do that, and we will be working on our hips later on in the sequence, because we're going to work from the feet right up to the crown of your head, then you can just put your foot down on the mat like that, with one foot out in front, the other one up beside you. But there's a thing I want you to notice. I want you to have your ankle, knee and hip in the same line. If I bring that foot in there, then I am putting a little stress on my hip that it doesn't need. If I put it way out there, I'm probably not going to be in a good position to do it either. So we're going to think always, as we go through the sequence of movements, that we're stacking our joints. So ankle, knee and hip in the same line. And then I'm going to take the fingers of my left hand and I'm going to thread my fingers through my toes. So your index finger comes through from your big toe and then all the way down along into between your little toe. I'm actually not going to do it with the same hand and the same foot. I just realized that. I'm going to take my other hand. So my left knee is bent. I'm going to use my right hand and I'm going to thread it through. And I have a reason for doing that. I'm going to turn my foot up, and if you have your foot across here, you can get even more movement into it. But if you can't do that move, then it's fine to have it here. But then you may not have the hip mobility to do it there either. So just as far as you can get it. So I'm going to do the full expression of the movement. So I have my ankle crossed over the top of my knee. If you want to take it down a little further, that may be more accessible to you, but don't have it on the knee joint. That's not a good idea. So your patella is that a little kneecap you've got going there, and you do not want to put pressure on that. So up over there, and then I'm going to take the thumb of my left hand, I'm going to massage the sole of my foot. All I'm doing here is just getting an increased blood flow here, warming up the tissues, and paying your feet attention that they don't get very often. And then I'm going to hold on to the top of my ankle and just rotate my ankle. So just trying to get movement into the ankle joint, and we'll be working on our ankles another day. And then from here, I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to cup the back of my right heel, and then I'm going to anchor down with my thumb to the inside, and then I'm going to twist my foot, kind of like wringing out a cloth. Now you're not going to get much movement here because the foot doesn't have that, but you want to get as much movement into it as you can, because you don't want a dead pair of feet. You want a pair of feet that are going to be really useful for you. And then I'm going to abandon that for a moment, and then I'm going to put my foot back down on the ground. For those of you who've had your feet on the ground all the time, you're in the right position. You're unthreading your fingers, and then you're going to take index finger and thumb to each toe. So big toe and one beside it first. And then you're going to pull the toes long, so you get them stretched out. Then you're going to pull them apart, just noticing that you've got quite a lot of movement there. And then you're going to take them up and down away from each other. So just thinking about maybe getting your toes nearly as useful as your fingers. And that's because we use them all the time, they're so useful. And then just moving down each of the toes, working on 2 at a time. And then just stretching out so you've got loads of little joints in your toes, taking them apart and then up and down with each one, and then paying particular attention to your baby toe, because it's usually the least mobile and useful of all of them. And now place all of your toes on the mat, and I want you to try first to see, can you send a message or a signal through the neural pathways from your brain to your toe, and lift your big toe off the mat. And keep the other ones down. Then take the big one down, lift the little ones up. If that doesn't happen, even the idea of thinking about it is going to start to reignite those pathways for you. I have another little trick. If it won't happen, use your fingers to hold all the baby toes down and lift your big toe up. Then drop the big toe down. Place your fingers on your big toe and lift your little ones up, and then drop them down. Simple little routine, and then I want you just to stretch out your foot and roll your ankle backwards and forwards. We're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So I always bend my knee in first. Remember that the knee is a hinge joint. That's all it should be doing, is flexing and coming back into its position. And it has a tiny little bit of lateral movement, but we've got big ligaments either side to prevent that, because you need a stable knee. You don't need your knee wobbling all over the place. So always, if I'm bringing my knee in and then opening my hip, as I'm doing here, I would never just throw my hip open without bending my knee in first. So I'd never throw it open from there. Really bad for your knee. So knee in, foot in line first. And then if this isn't available to you, then keeping your foot on the ground as you do it. So I'm going to cross over here, because that helps with opening my hip, and we're getting into hips in another one of these little sequences. And then I'm going to thread my fingers through. So when you do this on a regular basis, you'll find it's much, much easier. That eventually you'll be able to get your whole hand inside your toes. And then I'm going to simply massage the sole of my foot. If you can turn your foot right up and look at it, it's even better. And then it also gives you a chance to see how dry the skin is there, if you need to get out a pumice stone, if you need just to use moisturizer on your feet, because you need to keep the skin nice and soft there. You don't want calluses or anything. And if you find you've got calluses, or you've got stuff going on with your feet, like maybe you've got a bunion on one side, all of this is going to really help with that. Just the very fact of just mobilizing through everything. And you can carry this on much longer than I'm doing it. I'm just, sort of shortcutting all of this just to show you what you can do, but you should take your time with it. And then just hold on to your ankle or your heel, and then we'll begin just by rotating. And then we're just going to twist. And again, you won't find much here, but what you find will be really beneficial. And then foot comes back down, unthread your toes. And then again, just even if your toes won't move, I want you to, without using your hands first, think about them moving. So send that message down, and eventually the toe will come up of its own accord. Well, not of its own accord, you have to initiate it. Big toe down, small ones up, and then doing it in the opposite way. So just lifting and moving, and I can't now, but ideally we should be able to lift each one independently. And then from here, then we're going to stretch your foot out and then circle your feet. And you might notice that the soles of my feet could be a little bit cleaner, and I've done that purposefully because you should, as much as possible, be trotting around the place in your bare feet, even out into the garden, as much as possible, because you want to strengthen up the natural movement of your foot, as opposed to, having them always in shoes, having them always supported, having them always compressed into a space they don't particularly want to be into. From there, we're going to come over onto our knees. Now, if you've got trouble with your knees, I'll face you first to explain. If you've got trouble with your knees, this is not going to be ideal for you, and I'm not quite sure. I do have other ways of replicating what we're doing here, but if you can be on your knees, I'll show you that one first. That's my phone, I've just switched it off. So, we're going to sit first, sitting on your stretched out feet. Okay, and feeling that stretch to the front of your ankles. So sitting here first. And then from here, I want you to come up and to sit on your toes. And look at the shape of my feet here. So if you put your hands back, you can feel these are the plantar fascia muscles, the muscles in the soles of your feet. You can then take your hand back and stretch out your toes. And for most people, this might actually be enough. It might indeed be too much. And if it's too much, then just come up a little bit. And you can see the shape of my feet here. So when I sit back down, then the full weight of my upper body is placed onto my toes. So that's quite a deep stretch there on your toes. If you feel that this is fine and you would like a little more, and you're gradually, strengthening your feet, you can take your fingers down and just tip yourself up. And now I want to lift my sit bones off my heels and maybe put my hands to my heart, and then maybe fall out of it like me, or come back down. And then we're going to do the reverse. So onto your hands, and then I want to flip my feet back and I'm going to sit on them. And now you're stretching the fronts of your ankles. And that's really important as well, that you have mobility through every part of your ankle joints. So now we're in a completely different position. And if this feels not enough, you can increase this by maybe lifting one knee up and then lifting another knee up. Just play around with this. And then maybe eventually lifting both knees up. And you can feel the stretch then on the front of your ankles. And from there, we can come back down. And then we always need to come back onto your hands and then flop out your feet. Maybe tap them off the front. And then I would always finish off by just coming one more time to sit on my heels. Remember again, the further back you go, the more weight is on your heels and the deeper the stretch, and you can really feel that on the muscles at the soles of your feet. And then from here, I'm going to swing around again and come to seated. They're very, very simple little moves that you can do. You can do them at any time, say sitting on the couch in the evening, or you're sitting at work. Well, I don't know if it's handy to take your shoes and socks off at work, but maybe you're going to find an occasion during your day when you can just to sort of even just thread your fingers through your toes or do something, massage the soles of your feet, probably better in the evenings. And if you could, it would also be a really good idea to slip off the couch and sit on the floor, because the more often that we practice getting up from the floor to standing, the better. It's going to keep you mobile, it's going to keep you in all of the joints, because what it takes to get up off the floor from seated or from lying down even, and we'll do that on another day, really beneficial for the overall health of your joints, muscles, ligaments, tendons, fascia, everything that goes on with your body. So for the next class, then we're going to work up from the soles of your feet up through your ankles, your calf muscles. Then we're going to go quads, hamstrings, hips, core, so important. From there, we're going to work through the full spine, then onto the shoulders, even more important, and then onto neck. And we're going to finish off with some facial exercises, something to get the muscles of your face moving. So until next time, take care of your feet. And remember, they're a precious, precious commodity like every other part of our bodies. And they are so important in keeping the health of the rest of your body going. If you've got something wrong with your feet, then you're really going to find that it's going to translate right across the rest of your body. So until next time, take care of your feet.